Hey everyone, it's Dave. How's everybody doing? Well, here we are. It's actually Friday, the 22nd of July, and it's about 11 o'clock in the morning. So anything that I say here may change in the next couple of hours, maybe in the next day, but I have my doubts. So here's the situation about the labor agreement. They came to some sort of an agreement between the players and the owners, and they figured out relatively what they want to, how they want to split the money. And they came up with most of the things that they want to do with the money and how they want to use it and how they're going to work their agreements out or their disagreements out. But they're not quite done yet. There's still a couple of gaps in how they're going to do some things about some of the makeup money that they had, the fact that they don't have any sort of compensation for the lockout, things like that are still on the table that haven't been figured out yet. And there's one additional item that is the fact that the Players Association decided to decertify in order to file their lawsuits. And it was a very important legal hurdle to overcome, because if they didn't decertify, they would still be a union and could not have sued the NFL because of collective bargaining reasons. It's a whole labor relations thing. So anyway, they were able to sue, and that's how this whole thing got started. So now here we are, and they want to recertify themselves, we think. And so they need to go through that process. And they don't want to do it quickly because that has an impact to them the next time the collective bargaining agreement comes up, maybe 10 years from now. So they're looking out for their own future. But they think they want to recertify. Well, what if they don't? Then they stay a trade association, and they have the right to sue under antitrust rules, and they have the right to still have some certain privileges, like be able to sue under class action lawsuits and things like that. But then the league actually has some problems, because each individual team could do whatever they wanted as far as discipline, as far as fines, as far as different things, the way that the organization is run. They don't have to run the same as each other, which is kind of a scary and daunting thought for most of the owners. And it could open them up to a lot of lawsuits if the players don't like the way it's going. So there's a big gap here. And we don't know which way that's going to work out. There's still the mediator still has to review the agreement after it's all been finalized, and there's still the fact that the judge still has to take the case and do the final disposition on the cases that are in front of him and her. So there's still a little bit of work to be done here. Now, what's the big labor problem here? It's that they came to an agreement without these couple of little pieces, and they're little, sort of. I mean, you know, they're in the grand scheme of things, they're kind of little, but they're not really small things. They're things that they really want to get ironed out. So the owners kind of went about it and said, okay, we think we can come up with these agreements later. We can figure those last couple of pieces out. Why don't you players go and vote on it? Because we want to start our league year now. We're ready to get going. So the players said, all right, we'll take that agreement. And they looked at it and they realized that it wasn't complete. They didn't have a final document. They still had a lot of things with provisions in it and notes in it and different things. And they wanted to see a final document before they voted on it. Can't say I blame them. It's going to bind their relationship for the next 10 years. So they held off voting. Now, partly it's a political maneuver, partly it's for reality that they actually held off voting, but they held it off. So the owners went ahead and met, and 31 of the 32 owners voted for it. It tells you something when 31 of the owners, when all of the owners essentially vote for the agreement and one of the owners doesn't vote, and that was Al Davis, who decided not to vote. No surprise, really. Anyway, so they voted for it, and when all 31 agree on something, you know that there's something not completely above board. I don't want to say that they're lying or wrong or anything, but it's just an interesting situation because they made a decision to go ahead and vote for it. But they said themselves, they didn't see the final agreement and they don't know exactly what's in it. They're just voting for it. So you got to wonder on their side, is it a political maneuver to try and get this done? Then they told the players, you have until Tuesday to ratify this agreement, otherwise it's all null and void and we start again. Well, that's an interesting stance to take. And those few outstanding things, oh, we'll work those out. And the players have no immediate faith that they'll get worked out. That's a bit of an issue. And with the looming situation with them potentially staying as a trade association, that has some interesting bearing on all this. So where does it net out? Who knows? I mean, over the next few days, we may learn something. It may, like I said, by the time you watch this, you may know something more than what I've said. But it could go any direction. It could all get signed and everybody's happy and they all start reporting to camp starting tomorrow. And they start having free agency starting maybe Tuesday or Wednesday next week and start having camp at the same time. Yikes, both of those at the same time? That's a little scary. But we just don't know where it's going to go and how it's going to work out and who's going to do what and how it's going to play out for the NFL. Could turn out that it lasts a few more weeks before they come to an agreement and they get to a point where they just continue to argue with each other for a while longer. Could go back to court. They could all just wind up back in the courtroom and trying to work out their differences that way. I really don't know. I can't predict this one. This is just, it's a little bit, a little bit big for me. I'm just kind of following it, and there's sort of a strange fascination with it because of the fact that there's so many different things happening all at the same time, and I can't quite piece them all together, but you keep hearing pieces and you go, well, that's kind of weird. So it's a very strange time. There's also one other factor in here, and that is the retired players. They are still filing suit to try and have their, essentially, day in court to make sure that they're covered under all the agreements that the NFL has. Given that there's so many things that they want, the retired players want certain benefits and health care and things like that, they want to make sure that they're covered, and they don't feel that they got represented during this entire negotiation. So do they want to undo the deal? They say they don't, and I don't really think they do, but ultimately they do because they want more. They want a bigger cut. And how that plays out, I don't know, because it could have an impact. I mean, they could come to an agreement between the players and owners today, and the court could rule that that's invalid because of this agreement, this legal case with the retired players. So, there's another hurdle to overcome, and it's just, it keeps getting weirder and weirder, and there's a lot of optimism. Oh, this is going to be done. The owner said, hey, the deal is done, we're finished. If the players don't do it, then that's on them. And I think that's a little disingenuous. I get what they're saying, but it's not quite right. There's a little more to it than that. And they've published a league schedule, and they're trying to throw it back and make the players seem like the villains here. Nobody's a villain, nobody's a hero. They're all on the same page as just being guys who are ruining a sport that I enjoy watching, and you do too, I assume. So that's the way I view it. And that's, we'll see where it all nets out in the next few days, maybe week, maybe month. But maybe we'll have football back come a couple of weeks. They've already canceled the Hall of Fame game on August 7th, and they're planning for the next preseason game, which would be the weekend of August 11th. We'll see if that holds up. I have a doubt that those games are going to go on. The players are under no time constraint in that sense because they really don't make much money from the preseason weekends. They just get their living. It's a room and board and a small fee for playing in the games. It's like, I don't know, 10 grand, 50 grand, whatever it is. Relatively speaking, it's little money given what they're paid during the season to come out there and perform in a game. I think it's like 15,000. I think I said 50, but I meant 15 to play in that game. And so when you think about that, it doesn't matter to them whether they play in it or not. So we'll see what they think about that. But that is it for today. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye now.